Quite a big and busy news day. Prime Minister's visit to Japan for the Quad meeting has created a huge buzz. The most defining picture of the day was this one on your screens, with Prime Minister Modi and the heads of other Quad countries. And you can see Mr. Biden, next to him, Mr. Albanese in the front, walking lock in step with India's Prime Minister, is the Japanese Prime Minister, Mr. Kishida. The picture was hailed by many, including the BJP, as a symbol of India's standing in the world today, a Vishwa Guru and a first among equals. But the endorsement for India came also from US President Joe Biden and other heads of Quad nations. According to sources, during a closed-door session, a bilateral, President Biden praised, in fact, Prime Minister Modi for successfully handling the COVID pandemic's fallout in the country. Interestingly, he drew a parallel with countries like China and Russia to say that India handled the pandemic successfully, unlike these other autocracies. Biden also said that India's success has shown that democracies can deliver. This was a welcome change, viewers. There are many in Biden's own party that had reservations about India's democracy. The fact that Biden has overruled them and talked about the inherent strengths of India's democracy is a resounding message to all of those who sit on the fence or bait India's democratic credentials. India's COVID handling also came in for praise from the Prime Ministers of Japan and Australia. It's interesting that even as a democratic India was hailed in Tokyo, on the other side of the world, in Cambridge, United Kingdom, Rahul Gandhi was busy drawing up a dismal picture of the political scenario back home, saying that Prime Minister Modi is creating a vision that is not inclusive and leaves out huge chunks of the population. Now, viewers, think about it. If huge chunks of the population were being left out, how would we have won this fight against COVID? Muslims, Hindus, Christians, Sikhs have all got inoculated. A vast majority of them have got the first dose. Another vast majority have got a second dose. The booster is being rolled out. But Rahul Gandhi said that discrimination was a massive problem. And he said that this discrimination goes against the idea of an inclusive India. Rahul Gandhi even posed with anti-India baiter and former Labour Party boss and MP Jeremy Corbyn. If Modi is pushing India towards the edge of a breakup, as Rahul claims, then why was he hobnobbing with Corbyn, who supports separatism in Kashmir? By advocating for separatism, he's actually cutting off India's head, viewers, and undermining the very idea of India, which is based on plurality. Can't understand this. Well, BJP politicians in India are not the only ones to question and contradict Rahul Gandhi's views. In Cambridge, an IS officer studying in Rahul's alma mater confronted him on his idea of India when he called it a union of states and not a nation. Rahul Gandhi has not read the preamble of the Indian Constitution. The fine print will show that the preamble refers, viewers, to India as a nation. India is not a federation of states as the United States is, where civil wars had to be fought to create a union. Viewers, first listen in to what Rahul Gandhi has been saying in the past. Rahul Gandhi, speaking at the Congress Chintan Shivir, came out with this theory that India is only a union of states. It's not a nation. It's not a Rashtra. It's not Bharat, viewers. It's not Bharat. Let's first play out. Let's first play out that bite that we played out, viewers, at 6:25 today. We can pull it out of that rundown for you. And I will play that out. But he again repeated this. And a young man who you see on your screens confronts him. First the confrontation, first Rahul Gandhi, and then the confrontation. Rahul Gandhi said this. Watch.
Some days back, in Parliament I made a speech where I said, India, Bharat is a union of states. That is the line that is written in our constitution. India is not described as a nation, it is described as a union of states. Meaning, the states of India, the people of India, have come together to form the union. They have come together to form the union.
Viewers, Rahul Gandhi was talking about this, expounding on all of this, when that young gentleman on your screen, the student, an IS officer, confronts him. Watch this.
You quoted Article 1 of the Constitution saying India, that is Bharat, is a union of states, as per the Constitution. But if you turn a page back and look at the preamble, it does mention that India is a nation. Bharat itself is one of the oldest surviving civilizations of the world. And the term finds its origin in the Vedas. So we have a really old civilization. So Chanakya, even Chanakya, when he interacted with his students in Takshashila, he made it clear to them that they might belong to different Mahajanpads, but ultimately they belong to a nation that is Bharat. Adi Shankaracharya, he said the word... 10 seconds.
One second. Did he use the word nation?
He said, you belong to a Rashtra. Rashtra is, the Sanskrit...
Rashtra is kingdom.
Rashtra, no. It's a Sanskrit name for a nation. So,
nation is the word nation, right, is a Western concept.
So when I talk about nation, I don't talk about a political entity, because we've had these experiments across the world. You had USSR, you had Yugoslavia, you had the experimentation with the United Arab Republic. So unless nations have a strong socio-cultural and emotional bonding and a composite culture, a constitution cannot make a nation. Nations make constitutions. My question is, don't you think as a political leader, your idea of India is not only flawed and incorrect, but also destructive because it attempts to whitewash a history of thousands of years?
No, actually, I don't think so.
Viewers, you can hear the derisive laughter by all the Gandhi supporters in that Cambridge auditorium that was accompanied when this young student, Mr. Verma, posed that question to Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi doesn't even know the word Rashtra means nation and not kingdom, as he says. He does not know this. He has probably not read the preamble. And we are going to have others who will come out and speak and defend him and try to contextualize his remarks, which are completely off base. Who do we have with us? We have Siddharth Verma today, the IS officer, and Sanjay Jha, author and a member of the Congress party. Now, first of all, Mr. Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you a question. You're going up against Siddharth Verma, an IS officer, person who's distinguished himself in that particular auditorium by asking the right question and by, of course, teaching a civics lesson to Rahul Gandhi, which pretty much everyone knows like the back of their hand, who's gone to school beyond class 8. So Sanjay Jha, I want to ask you this. Rahul Gandhi talks about the death of democracy in India. And I want to start this debate by throwing open this question, and I'll bring in both Mr. Verma and you into this. But he doesn't preach it in his own organization, in the Congress party. You yourself have suffered on account of asking questions just like Mr. Verma did. And Mr. Verma was, of course, derisively laughed off by some of those acolytes in that auditorium. And that too in an institution of learning which encourages viewers an open exchange. But clearly, there's no room for that. So Sanjay Jha, please explain. Please explain. Does Rahul Gandhi have any moral right or authority to speak about democracy?
No, he has. He absolutely has.
Okay.
So do you. So does Mr. Verma. So does everybody.
No, I have the right, but I don't know if I have the moral authority. That's the question. That's a much deeper question. Moral authority means that you are a Democrat instinctively and in your actions. So I'm asking you, as a suspended member of the Congress party, thrown out because you asked why there should be a perpetuation, and you tweeted recently after the Chintan Shivar was over. I read your tweet, and you said the biggest question is one of leadership, and that remains unresolved. So we can talk about everything, but till that is not resolved, there's nothing to talk about. So I'm asking you to be honest today, put your hand on your heart and say that Rahul Gandhi, if you believe, has a moral authority to speak about democracy, then tell us why.
Hand on heart, if you can see it on your screen.
Yeah.
Let me answer your question. Now your question, I am assuming, is done. I'll keep my answer shorter than your question, actually.
Good.
Number one, it is both possible that the Congress party could do better in terms of its internal democracy. And it is also possible that India is facing a democratic deconsolidation. The two actually perhaps are a reality. I don't have to quote to you the Freedom Index, where people are openly talking about all over the world. Mr. Verma is, I'm assuming, in the UK. And if he reads multiple newspapers and magazines in the UK or the US or any other, kind of media of preference, illiberal democracy, elected autocracy, a democratically elected dictatorship, that's what India is described all over the globe, no matter what the Indian media actually says back home. The truth is this, that is India facing a communal stress? Absolutely. Is Rahul Gandhi wrong in questioning Mr. Modi's authoritarian predilections? Absolutely not. And I want to just make a short point to what, I think Siddharth mentioned to his question to Mr. Gandhi. I'm glad that dialogue, I really encourage somebody young like him posing these questions to anybody in the political ecosystem. The point Siddharth Rahul making, and I want you to kind of perhaps not miss that, because he's spoken about it not once but several times, is about the illusion of cooperative federalism in this country. You're a bureaucrat, I gather. You are part of the Indian administrative service. I have the highest respect for the Indian bureaucracy. And I want to tell you this, that when you look at Disha Ravi, a young girl in Bangalore, where you had a police from Delhi coming down to arrest her, would you as a citizen of India actually endorse that? When a Jignesh Bhivani is arrested by a cross-border police moving around on charges of what? Criticizing the Prime Minister? Is that democracy? These are questions we need to answer. And Rahul, one last point before I think Siddharth comes in. I, as a citizen of the country, much before as a Congress suspended member, blah, blah, I am concerned because I do believe that at the end of the day, it's a cultural diversity. I think Siddharth mentioned composite culture. It means the same thing. India is not culturally homogeneous. We are diverse. We have a regional uniqueness. There is, read the statement of the Tamil Nadu Finance Minister to Nirmala Sitharaman. He said, you can't talk down to me. Just because you're the finance minister, you can't exhort me to cut taxes when you have done exactly the opposite for so many months ago.
Okay.
That is a complex debate.
Okay, it's a complex debate, viewers, and the Congress party has the moral authority through its archangel, Rahul Gandhi, to talk about it. Now, 3 or 4 points before I bring in Mr. Verma. It's very important that Mr. Verma responds to you. Just want to make 3 or 4 points, viewers. Sure. Sanjay Jha talked about cooperative federalism. And he invoked the examples of arrests that were made by sending police forces across state jurisdictions, forgetting that a journalist was recently arrested by the Rajasthan police, picked up from his home in Delhi and taken.
I don't endorse that.
You don't endorse that, but it happened under a Congress state. So you invoked the example, I didn't. You may not.
What about
hypocrite? No, there's no what about it. This is a fact. If the BJP has sent its police force across the state, you have done the same. So that cancels out. The BJP is no better than you are in this sweepstakes. You talk about cultural diversity. You talked about cultural diversity. The Prime Minister, Dr. Manmohan Singh, no less, viewers, came out and said the following. You know what he said? The first right on India's natural resources lies with the Muslims.
He never said that.
He said it, and you know it.
Him.
You talk about cultural diversity. Rajiv Gandhi jumps up and says, on the back of the biggest rats in India, in post-partition history, what did he say? When a big tree falls, the ground shakes. When the big tree falls, the ground shakes. This is the way they upheld cultural diversity, viewers.
Well, Modi said, "Hum 5, hamare 25." Rahul.
It's okay. I'm only saying, what if Modi is guilty, if the BJP is so rotten that they are all autocratic?
you should
How
mention
is the
that.
Congress party distinguishing
Make this a
itself
balanced
by doing exactly the same,
it.
or even worse? Secondly, viewers, let me tell you.
Has made mistakes.
Okay, no, make mistakes. Other people also make mistakes.
Ruthless.
Then apologize for those mistakes. Don't take the moral high ground and say we are the biggest kingpin. Then yeah, I don't want to argue further. I brought in 2 or 3 points. Mr. Verma, your responses to Sanjay Jha tonight. Why do you find what Rahul Gandhi says so disturbing?
Well, 2 days ago in London, and even before that, I was quite disturbed that now we are coming to a debate in which we are challenging the narrative of the idea of India. We have, grown up in an environment in which, we are taught about India's history. We have grown up in a very diverse country, so many states and so much diversity. And my understanding as a student of history and also as a student of politics has been that it's not legal documents that make nations. The reason why India has been successful, it has been a wonder. If you look at all the countries which became independent in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, India has been a remarkable achievement that it has been able to maintain the unity and sovereignty of such a diverse people. And the reason is that we were not born in 1947. We go much further back, thousands of years, and it's the composite culture and the values and the emotions and the socio-cultural foundations of the country that bring us together. And if you take everything away and try to, find your secular ethos or your democratic values on just a legal document, then I think it's going into dangerous territory because India's society itself, all the values which you find in the constitution are actually societal and cultural values that were there in the Indian society all the time. Coming to Jhaji's point on the foreign media and how India has been projected as an autocratic, country in some of the indices and also in articles in the foreign media, I do actually look at articles in the Telegraph or the Guardian or the New York Times. What I found surprising is that most of these articles are actually written by Indian journalists in foreign journals. They're not actually foreign journalists, at least most of them. The other thing is that I try to base my understanding of India and the knowledge on, talking to people, much more, on people-to-people contact rather than what the media is telling me. And let me tell you, I've been in Cambridge for almost 9 months now, and I've traveled all across the UK and in Europe. And when I talk to people here, when I talk to scholars from different countries, I see a growing optimism about India. People look at India as the harbinger of democratic values in the developing world. And India is actually going. I think people here who belong to the countries are more optimistic about India than some of the Indians who are here. And what India needs right now is a lot of that optimism. And when you go on a foreign stage, you tell people that, there's a lot of optimism and India's going to be a big superpower in the future, which it will be. And so, I just find it quite surprising and disappointing that we are, putting forth a very gloomy picture of India, which I don't agree with.
Well, let me also tell you, viewers, this is the index that Sanjay Jha is quoting, the World Press Freedom Index is one of them. Let me tell you the irony here. Pakistan is at 145. Lanka is at 127. Myanmar is at 140. And Bangladesh is at 162, viewers. Bangladesh, which today is a beacon of economic progress and democratic stability. Myanmar, where a military junta is hunting down minorities. Pakistan, where the army is killing its own citizens. There are large-scale disappearances of journalists and all dissidents, including Imran Khan, viewers, today. And viewers, in Lanka, which we have seen has imploded on itself, all of them are higher than Bangladesh. Bangladesh till about 2 years back, their GDP, the Congress was saying, per capita is higher than India. What a model country. That same index, these democratic indexes, put Bangladesh right at the bottom. That's how reliable they are. In Canada, when truckers were left to die and starve, there was no downgrading of Canada's democracy number, viewers. It went higher. That is a hypocrisy. And that's what Mr. Verma is talking about, not Mr. Jha. Mr. Verma, just very quickly, you were challenged by Rahul Gandhi. You were challenged by Rahul Gandhi on this. India is a union of nations. 1 second, I just want to bring Mr. Verma in. Give me 30 seconds, please.
Now, can I respond to him later?
Yeah, you can, if you have time. I've really run out of time. Mr. Verma, I just wanted to ask you, did Rahul Gandhi come out and engage with you later on? Did he try to even ask you that in the preamble that you were quoting, the word nation is mentioned? Because he says it's not mentioned at all.
Mr.
Yeah, so the
Verma,
preamble point was...
No. Before you answer, Rahul, just two questions for you. India, you said, should have a reason for age of optimism. Sure, where the economy is concerned, maybe. But tell me, if you were a Muslim in this country, and you heard about congregations calling for the genocide of Muslims, if there are 40 Muslims who have been lynched to death since Mr. Modi became Prime Minister, can I ask you, you're in the UK. I go there pretty often, by the way. Would Boris Johnson survive as a Prime Minister in the UK for even 1 week, since he can't even survive Partygate, if there were people being lynched to death in the UK? Would he survive for 5 years? Would he be popular? Would Britain be an optimistic country, Mr. Siddharth Verma?
Well, you know, I won't comment on the particular instances which you have mentioned, but I continue to believe that India is a very multicultural country, and it continues to be so. Sure. And I know there's a lot of hysteria going around all around the world. I don't really believe in it, because what I believe in, I come from Lucknow, you know, and political parties have changed throughout, you know, the time I've been in Lucknow. But I haven't really, as a person who stays very much with you know, people of India, this is like one of the first times I'm coming on television. I actually spend more time on the ground than on the television. So, you know, I don't see these fault lines within India on the ground. I do see these fault lines on television debates.
On television debates, that's very important. Remember, viewers, Sanjay Jha is posing these questions when he knows that the anchor of this particular show, part of his family is a Kashmiri Hindu family. I don't remember any Prime Minister giving out a statement in this country condemning the lack of justice for Kashmiri Hindus. Don't remember it. Don't remember it. We're talking about Boris Johnson here and all of these people, but not one statement, viewers, not one word of apology for denying justice.
I feel as free in India, and you know, the people I meet in India, I think everyone feels as free in India as they feel.
Well,